The abandoned factory was overgrown with weeds. A rusty red sedan sat outside the entrance. Inside, Summer Stewart's hands were tied behind her back, and a strip of yellow duct tape sealed her lips, muffling her voice into desperate whimpers. Her white dress was stained with dirt, and her slender, pale legs were exposed beneath the fabric. A masked kidnapper crouched in front of her, his voice hoarse and raspy. "Miss Stewart, you're Trevor Larson's fiancée. $4 million for ransom shouldn't be a big deal. Here, call him yourself." A battered old phone was tossed at her feet. Without another word, the man ripped the tape from her mouth and cut the ropes binding her hands. A sharp knife pressed against her fair neck. Beep, beep, beep. After what felt like an eternity, a low, cool male voice finally answered. "Hello." Summer trembled violently. "Trevor, I've been kidnapped. They're asking for $4 million in ransom. Can you please come save me?" There was a brief silence on the other end before Trevor's voice turned even colder. "Summer, I already told you Peyton is sick. Her final wish is to have this wedding. Stop making trouble." It hit her then. Their wedding was today. Peyton was Trevor's first love, but she had been diagnosed with a terminal illness. Her last wish was to have a wedding with the man she loved. When Summer found out Trevor had agreed, she had fought against it. She shook her head frantically. "I'm not making trouble this time. I swear, please just believe me." Trevor's voice remained emotionless, cold as ice. "Summer, you'll always be Mrs. Larson. Why can't you be more understanding? My patience is wearing thin. You've crossed the line." "Trevor, do you really not care if I live or die?" Summer clenched her teeth. "If you don't come for me, we're done." Trevor frowned. Here she goes again with the breakup threats. "Summer, why can't you just behave?" His patience ran out. The kidnapper snatched the phone away. "Mr. Larson, seems like you don't care about this woman. $4 million is just pocket change for you. Are you paying or not?" At that moment, inside the grand church, Trevor stood tall in a crisp white suit, phone in hand. Opposite him, Peyton stood in a flowing white wedding dress. Outside, the ocean breeze rustled through the air, while the guests sat in awe of the romantic ceremony. Trevor curled his lips into a cold smirk. Not paying. The kidnapper was stunned. If he had known, he would have kidnapped Trevor's first love instead. At least she was worth something. Through the phone, Peyton's soft, frail voice came through. "Trevor, I'm so happy you're fulfilling my final wish. Even if this wedding is fake, it's enough for me to remember forever. If Summer is so upset she resorted to something like this, maybe we should cancel the wedding." Trevor's tone was firm. "I made a promise to you. I'll keep it." The kidnapper let out a frustrated laugh. "Trevor, your fiancée is quite the beauty. Aren't you afraid we might just have some fun with her?" Trevor's voice dripped with scorn. "Do whatever you want. If you actually go through with it, I might even throw in an extra $1 million. Hearing this, Summer forced back the tears welling in her eyes. She had spent 5 years chasing Trevor, loving him, indulging him, believing that one day she'd finally melt his frozen heart. But the moment Peyton came back, everything she had worked for went up in smoke. And now, Trevor was holding a grand wedding with Peyton. The kidnapper grinned wickedly. "All right then, Mr. Larson. Since you said so, we'll have to follow through." He hung up and turned back to Summer, his eyes gleaming with malicious intent. "Ms. Stewart, your fiancé is ruthless. He's practically forcing us to have our way with you." Laughing darkly, he shoved a pill between her lips, forcing her to swallow. At the church, Trevor felt an inexplicable sense of unease. Summer pulling stunts like this was nothing new. She had always disliked Peyton, always had a strong hostility toward her. And now, with this fake wedding, she had given him the silent treatment for days. But this time she had gone too far. Kidnapping, just to make him leave Peyton. I've spoiled her too much over the years. Once this fake wedding was over, if Summer apologized, he'd give her an even bigger, more extravagant wedding. Peyton watched Trevor's dark expression. She lowered her gaze and spoke softly. "Trevor, I'm sorry. This is all because of me." Trevor's voice was calm. "It's not your fault." Her delicate eyes shimmered as she asked, "So, do we continue?" Trevor hesitated for a moment before answering, "Yes." Hearing that, Peyton's lips curled into a sinister smile. "Summer, I told you, you'll never beat me." Summer stared at the disconnected phone, feeling as if her heart had been ripped out, bloodied and torn apart. At this moment, whatever hope she had left for him was completely shattered. She would have to save herself. Quietly, she reached for the fruit knife the kidnapper had left on the ground. She waited for the right moment, then stabbed the man with all her strength before bolting toward the warehouse doors. "Shit," the kidnapper cursed in fury. "Get her, don't let her escape." The drug was starting to take effect. Summer could feel the heat coursing through her veins, but she pushed forward, sprinting down the desolate road, barefoot and desperate. The footsteps behind her grew closer and closer. Her heart pounded in her throat. This place was isolated, abandoned. Just then, a sleek, black Porsche, an ultra-rare limited edition model, sped down the road. Summer didn't hesitate. Better to die by impact than fall into their hands. She squeezed her eyes shut and threw herself in front of the car. The tires screeched violently against the pavement, slicing through the silence. The Porsche came to a sudden stop, mere inches from her body. The impact sent Summer crashing to the ground. A few seconds later, the car door swung open. A pair of polished black leather shoes stepped onto the ground. Long, powerful legs wrapped in tailored trousers moved forward. The man crouched down in front of her. As Summer got a clear look at his face, her heart skipped a beat. It's you." The man before her was Fraser Graham, heir to the Graham Group. If the Larson Group, led by Trevor, was among Havenbrook's top 3 financial conglomerates, then the Graham Group was undoubtedly number 1. Starting as a banking empire, it had rapidly expanded its investments into real estate, technology, communications, and funds. More than half of Havenbrook's industries had the Graham family's mark on them. Behind closed doors, everyone called him Bossman. Summer had met him once before. It was for a project the Stewart family had been competing for under the Graham Group's bidding process. She had been one of the project leads. Now, in her barely conscious state, she no longer cared about appearances. Using the last bit of her strength, she reached out and grasped the fabric of his tailored trousers. "Fraser, please, help me." Fraser's gaze darkened when he saw who it was. Her blue and white dress was torn and filthy, revealing a pair of pale, slender legs. Her delicate feet had been cut, blood staining her soft skin. And when he noticed the unnatural flush on her face, his frown deepened. Without a word, he bent down and scooped her into his arms. A faint scent of cool pine enveloped Summer, making her feel both cold and safe. Fraser placed her in the passenger seat and shut the door. Then, leaning lazily against the car, he slowly rolled up his sleeves and unfastened his watch, a limited edition piece worth millions. Glancing at the 3 burly kidnappers who had chased after her, he asked, "Did you drug her?" His voice was low, calm but chilling to the bone. 10 minutes later, Fraser slid into the driver's seat. His black dress shirt, now stained with blood, was stripped off and tossed out the window. Under the dim light, his lean, muscular torso was fully exposed, each ridge of his abs distinct, the smooth lines tapering down to a narrow waist, disappearing beneath his black dress pants. In the passenger seat, Summer had her eyes shut, her forehead damp with sweat. Her lips were slightly parted, teeth sinking into the soft flesh. He studied her for a long moment, his gaze unreadable. Then, pulling out his phone, he made a call. In half an hour, come to the Westhaven villa. Bring medicine. On the other end of the line was Xavier Hathaway, Havenbrook's top private hospital director and Fraser's longtime friend. Hearing the demand, Xavier groaned in frustration. My dear Mr. Graham, even if I were a street racer, the drive from Havenbrook to Westhaven takes at least 2 hours. What do you expect me to do? Pull out Doryman's magic door? Fraser's lips curled into a lazy smirk. Isn't that what your private jet is for? Xavier was stunned. Who the hell is important enough for Fraser to summon me with a plane? I'm like those doctors in movies, the ones who serve the most mysterious and wealthy men. You know, always at their service, ready for anything. Fraser hung up without another word. Gripping the steering wheel, he turned the car around. The Porsche sped down the empty road like a flash of lightning. Soon, they arrived at a luxurious white villa by the sea. Just as Fraser put the car in park, something soft and sweet suddenly pressed against him. Summer, her eyes hazy with desire, felt like she was being consumed by waves of heat. She was burning up. The thin strap of her dress had slipped off her shoulder, revealing the smooth, round curve beneath. Without hesitation, she climbed over the center console and straddled him, her slender fingers roaming across his bare chest. In the confined space of the Porsche, the air grew thick with tension. Fraser's Adam's apple bobbed. He caught her by the waist with one hand, his other gripping her delicate chin. He forced her to meet his dark, smoldering eyes. His voice was husky, almost a growl. Summer, do you even know who I am? Summer's mind was muddled, but a shadow of recognition lingered. She laughed, a slow, sultry smile, the corners of her eyes tilting up in a way that was irresistibly seductive. She was like a ripe, juicy peach, begging to be tasted. Hooking her arms around his neck, she nuzzled against him, her soft face rubbing against his skin. Fraser Graham, I'm so hot I can't take it anymore. Help me, please. With that, her lips brushed against his Adam's apple, trailing upward before finally pressing against his lips. Her kisses were messy and unpracticed, but they ignited something in him. Fraser's eyes darkened as he gazed at the flushed woman in his arms. Desire flickered in his stare, a deep storm swirling beneath the surface. His warm palm slid up her smooth back, stroking her slowly and giving off a dangerous yet irresistible vibe. Summer, his voice was low and deliberate. Are you sure you won't regret this? Summer shook her head, her voice trembling. No regrets. I just want to make Trevor regret. Fraser's brows arched. Oh, still thinking about him. His hands stilled. Summer whimpered at the sudden lack of touch, her body aching, desperate. She looked up at him with misty eyes, lips slightly pouting, her expression heartbreakingly fragile. No, no one else. There's no one else anymore. Trevor no longer existed in her heart. Fraser's fingers resumed their slow, teasing caress. His voice dropped into a dark whisper. Beg me. Summer didn't know how. She only knew she needed relief. Her eyes pleaded, her entire being trembling with longing. Fraser, I'm begging you. Take me. Fraser's lips curled into a wicked smile. As a reward, he gave her a teasing kiss, murmuring against her lips. So sweet. Summer instinctively licked her dry lips, her breath warm as she leaned closer, whispering into his ear. I want to give you my first time. Fraser's eyes flashed with something unreadable before a low chuckle rumbled from his chest. All right, I'll take it. With that, he flipped the dynamic, seizing control. His strong hand cradled the back of her neck as he crushed his lips against hers. This kiss was nothing like the first. This one was deep, urgent, utterly consuming. He plundered every last bit of sweetness from her lips, leaving her breathless and dazed. Summer felt like she was drowning, sinking deeper into the waves. Her body instinctively pressed against his, craving more. A heated current surged through Fraser's veins. For once, his usual self-restraint was shattered. Soon discarded clothing littered the car, her dress, his pants. And through the fogged-up windows, shadows entwined in passionate chaos. Hours later, Fraser stared at the faint traces of blood on his pants, his eyes dark and unreadable. Lifting Summer into his arms, he draped his suit jacket over her, covering her completely. Carrying her inside the villa, he headed straight to the bedroom. After thoroughly satisfying himself, Fraser was in a rare, patient mood. He carefully cleaned her up, dried her hair, and tucked her beneath the silk sheets. In the living room, Xavier lounged lazily on the sofa, flipping through a magazine. When Fraser finally emerged, shirt replaced with a printed one, 2 buttons undone at the collar, Xavier's gaze landed on the lipstick stain at his collarbone. Cherry red, stark and obvious. He checked the time. It was already 10 p.m. He had been waiting there for 5 hours. Xavier clicked his tongue. Fraser, good thing this is a private resort. Otherwise, with how your $1 million car's been rocking for hours, people might have thought there was an earthquake. Fraser shot Xavier a cold, cutting glance. He walked to the liquor cabinet, grabbed a bottle of whiskey, poured himself a full glass, and downed it in one go. The burn of the alcohol finally cleared the lingering heat from the night's indulgence. Xavier clicked his tongue teasingly. Well, looks like someone finally got lucky. Guess my stash of meds is useless now, huh? So who's the woman that managed to tame our untouchable boss man? Xavier was dying of curiosity. Fraser was infamous in the business world for being ruthless and cold-hearted. He was decisive, merciless, and always in control. But in their private circle, he was different from other wealthy men like Xavier. Xavier enjoyed unwinding with drinks, actresses, and high-end escorts. If they found someone they liked, a little cash was nothing for a night of pleasure. Fraser played too, but his version of fun was different. Racing, surfing, skydiving, boxing, he only cared about the thrill. Women, too much trouble. Just as Xavier assumed Fraser wouldn't answer, Fraser placed his empty glass on the counter. With a casual flick of his fingers, the glass spun in place, casting streaks of reflected light across the surface. His dark eyes remained indifferent as he finally spoke. Summer Stewart. Xavier froze. He hadn't expected that. Lately, Summer's name had been making waves in high society. Not because the Stewart family was particularly prestigious, but because she was Trevor Larson's fiancée. Trevor and Fraser had always been business rivals. They were both at the top of Havenbrook's elite, but they moved in entirely different circles. Recently, Trevor had made headlines for throwing a grand wedding for his first love, Peyton. The whole city was gossiping about it, and naturally, his actual fiancée, Summer, had become the laughingstock of high society. Even Xavier had heard about it. He couldn't help but ask, Fraser, don't tell me you did this just to mess with Trevor. If you wanted to get under his skin, wouldn't Peyton be the better choice? Summer's completely out of favor these days. Fraser's sharp gaze flicked toward him. Xavier instantly felt a chill down his spine. Fraser scoffed. You think Trevor is worth that kind of effort? Xavier let out an awkward laugh. Trevor's not worth your time, sure, but Summer is his fiancée and you too. Well, it's a little messy. He wasn't about to say it out loud, but technically speaking, didn't that make Fraser the homewrecker here?